my journey through the world, over land and over sea, I see different cultures and different people's ways. I was born where the sun never sets and never rises. I was born where the heat is like a second skin.
In 1963, the first indigenous book in Nigeria, titled Ijala Are Ode, was published by Oxford University Press, now University Press PLC. 59 years after, we are here to have a brief chat with the author of the book, in person of Chief Oladipo Yemitan. But before we go into the interview proper, I am Janice Johnson Pemida, and you are watching the UPPLC interview series. So I present to you Chief Oladipo Yemitan. Good to have you on our show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sir, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
My name, again, as she has announced, is Oladipo Yemitan. I'm a native of Abeokuta. I'm an Owu, full, thoroughbred Owu. Let me say at the outset that I'm not a full-time author, even though my profession is broadcasting, or was broadcasting. So, writing is a pastime for me. I want to make this clear, that even though I've been published, written widely for about 70 years, it is as a pastime. What else do you want me to say? Let me say that you want me to talk about myself. I entered school around the age of 6 in the 30s, 1930s. And when I entered school, I started leading the class. So, I want to say that I've devoted my time to the study of both the English language and Yoruba, principally the Yoruba. And so I can say with confidence that when it comes to Yoruba, it is my beat.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, 59 years ago, you published this book, Ijala Are Ode.
Yeah.
That was such a long time. I wasn't even born then. I'm sure everybody on the crew, nobody was born at that time. So tell us about this book. Tell us a little bit about it. What is it about?
This book, Ijala Are Ode, is a book. It's a collection of stories, chants, called Ijala. In Yoruba, you have several yon of chants. You have Esha, you have Ogun, you have Shango, you have Rara, and all that. But Ijala is principally chanting of stories, recounting events relative to the hunting profession. So, in this Ijala, you have people singing praises of animals, brave fighters, great hunters, and the like. And then, in the course of this, they tell all sorts of stories. So it's a sort of archival instrument for making sure that history is preserved, because they keep on, it's from mouth to mouth, and they keep on from person to person, generation to generation. So it has immense value in the Yoruba way of life.
Okay. So what inspired your decision to write this book?
I got the inspiration from a radio program. Somebody gave a radio talk on Ijala, and instantly I became impressed and inspired to work on something similar. And let me point out that my father, held the chieftaincy title of Ashikpa. And Ashikpa, somebody who is an Ashikpa, is a war captain under the Balogun. He was a war captain. That is in wartime. But in peacetime, he is the head of a hunters guild, in an area, wide area. So I've got used to see hunters gathering, for entertainment, for events. So when I got the fellow who gave this talk on radio was the late Mr. Adeboye Babalola. He was Mr. at that time. Later he became a professor of Yoruba. He was the principal of Igbobi College at that time. And he took time to go around collecting Ijala chants from people who were versed in it. And when he gave this talk, it was so successful, well received. Other people became inspired, as I was at that time. That was what gave me the inspiration to do research on this work and write it.
So what were the challenges you faced in the process of putting this book together, and then how long did it take you to finally publish?
I did it within a year, and when it comes to challenges, I've faced only a few, because I was naturally a broadcaster, so I was used to writing talks, feature programs, news and all that. So I was already into the field of collecting material from people, elders, professionals, workers, artists, all over the place. So I already had the know-how of how to go about collecting this collection.
So why did you choose to publish with University Press PLC?
Before that time, before 1963, when this book was published, I was already in contact with Oxford University Press at Ibadan. Their representative at that time was the late Reverend T.T. Sholaru. He was the representative of the Oxford University Press in Nigeria. So I was already in touch with him, and he had persuaded me to write something for them. So I wrote a novel, a Yoruba novel, and I gave it to them. And supposedly they were editing it. Then somewhere along the line, the fellow who was editing it left the employment of Oxford University Press. That was how the manuscript got lost. forever, although they paid me for it. So I was already in touch with them. And I had met Chief Michael Ulushola Akeleye, the one who took over from Reverend Sholaru. I'd met him in Ibadan. And later he was sent to Lagos to be the manager of the warehouse at Apapa in Lagos. Yeah. So we were already in touch. So when I wrote this work, naturally, my attention should turn to Oxford University Press. And that was how. But I didn't know whether they would like it or not, whether they would accept it or not. But I wrote it. Unfortunately, they found it publishable, and that was how it came about.
So how will you describe your experience publishing with the
University Press is super, because there's something we authors always discuss and watch out for, and that is the relationship between the author and the publisher. Because when you write your manuscript and give it to a publisher and it's accepted, it's published, you don't control the number of copies printed. They are responsible. Your contract says, when we publish this book, we are going to pay this percentage for every copy we sell. So whether they sell it or not, you would not know. And so, in most cases, you find that there is this relationship, and trust is always in the hanging balance between your relationship and you don't know. But I've tested over the years, Oxford University Press. At times, at Ibadan, I had access to their warehouse and their computers. And when we are talking about, they would, go to their computers and we see the number of copies sold. So nothing is hidden. And before the annual payment is due, they would have sent you a record of all your book, the number of copies sold, at what cost, the total cost, and your what is due to you, and the total. They would have sent it to you in advance, months in advance, for you to study in case you have any comments. This trust between me and University Press has become so firm and unshakable. And I can say it anywhere, that when it comes to trust between the author and the publisher, University Press, can be trusted, fully well.
That's good to know. So, apart from Ijala Are Ode, are there other titles you published with
Oh, yeah. I've written other titles for them. I wrote this Happy Times in Iju. For them, it's for children. For children. I've written Bobaniyi. But Bobaniyi is another one. This is the second impression. No? The other one is different. I've written Ojo Oshupa, parts 1 and 2. I've written Orúkọ Ló Yàtọ̀.
Okay, so all these books.
I've written another one, Madam Tinubu, okay. Merchant and Kingmaker. No copy here.
So are they? Well, there are more that you can't mention right now.
The answer is yes and no, because I have other scripts with them,
right,
which have not come out.
Who are basically the target audience for these books? you write? The ones you've written and the ones you're writing?
Schools and the general public. You know.
So
And,
these books that you've written, sir, do they have foreign appeal? Because I can see they are written in Yoruba language. So with the Yoruba language,
not all of them.
Understand. Okay.
Happy Times in Iju is not in Yoruba language.
Okay.
Madam Tinubu is not in Yoruba language.
All right. So those ones written in Yoruba, do they have international appeal? Can they be sold outside the country and all of that?
I believe so, because Yoruba is, is in vogue in so many countries of the world now. In America, there are 30 universities teaching Yoruba. Students, of course, will need Yoruba. If you expose the book to them, let them know, they'll be interested. Many countries in South America, including Cuba, Brazil, all the names in South America, they have Yoruba population, and they are still practicing Yoruba, culture.
Yes, and there are a lot of people who are actually interested in
students, even now, how about American students coming to Nigeria to study Yoruba now? They will buy books, they will buy them, take it back, be part of their,
Yoruba actually has a beautiful culture, and a lot of people are usually interested in it.
Yes.
Okay. So, now that these books have been written, and what are some of the ways you can suggest for us to create more awareness on them, so people will know that these books exist, and then they can begin to purchase?
In those days, University Press used to print out, have a published list of their books for distribution, which I believe were sent to schools, to let school and education authorities in various places know that these are the books we have in geometry, these are the books we have in Yoruba, these are the books we have on mathematics, to inform. That is no longer being done. But one can understand, that it costs much now, because, extra cost to do all this, as part of their marketing strategy. But I think it's very necessary to sell books. Print your book list, your list of your books, your warehouses. Point out your warehouses, where they are, where you have warehouses. Occasionally come out in the newspaper and advertise. And, these days, there are so many television stations, so many radio stations, and at cheap cost, you can advertise things. But you don't see, I accept that books are not being, people don't read books enough now. And it's a pity. Go to other countries. If you're in the tube in England, many people will not just sit down. For his 30-minute journey from King's Cross to one station, he's reading. He's just sitting down reading. It's not idle. And then you can, from my experience, unless you read, your worldview is narrow. It's limited. You should read. I know people have television, they have other things calling for their attention, but still, you can find time to read. If you don't read, somebody who cannot read, sometimes when I look at them, I feel sorry for them, for all the ideas that they could have been getting by reading. The young people of today, they prefer doing all sorts of games that are not that useful, contributing any much good to their life. But if they devote time to reading, they get ideas. And then These days, you discover that people cannot write correct English. You would have thought that many of the people, you around, that they understand. It is when you read the platforms, when you see what they write, you discover that, oh, their grasp of the English language is so shallow. So reading is a must for everybody. Learn to read, share. When your children, read to them, to help them how to read, so that when they grow up, they are used to reading. So.
Okay. So how relevant are these books to the present and even future generation?
They tell what is happening in the past and presently. They record events of the past for generations coming to, somebody told me one day that he saw my book in one library in the US. And I said, don't be surprised. Somebody will write me from the blue, from somewhere in the world, and say, I'm looking for this, your book on so, your title, so, how can I get it? And I direct them, go to, or write to so, sort, and you'll be able to get it. Or even in Nigeria, and I say, even your own books, University Press, I said, contact, the warehouse in Abeokuta, or go to the University of Lagos bookshop to get this book there.
So, sir, based on your comments earlier about your experience with University Press PLC, can we rightly say that you recommend University Press PLC to any other?
Definitely.
Okay, so can you just give a word of advice or two to upcoming authors who are coming out?
My advice to upcoming authors is that if you want to write, don't think that because you have written one manuscript that was rejected, that you won't try again. You should try again. When I look back at my library in Abeokuta, when I go back to, I'm amazed. The number of articles I've got published. Newspapers in Nigeria, in South Africa, in US, that and I see the copies. You can see them. If you want to write, keep at it. Don't stop. Then, if you're a writer, in the dead of night, an idea will come to you. Even on an expression that this is how you have to frame that paragraph in that your manuscript you are writing. You have to reframe it. You have to rise up and note it down, because by daybreak it might have gone. You write it down. So these and other ways are ways of becoming a successful writer. Write often. Don't stop. Just keep on writing. Write.
All right. So finally, what's your perception about the publishing industry in those days compared to what it is now?
Probably the way to frame it is to say that in those days, most of the books in the bookshops were published overseas, were just brought to Nigeria, and there were less publishers, and there was more integrity in the publishing world at that time. But when it became, wide, many more publishers came, many more writers came, all sorts of the Nigerian character became, manifested in it. You see, that's the picture of it. That something that is acceptable, it is when to Nigeria that you see some fault. And that is one thing we should correct in our character, you know, in our image in this country. Try to do things in the right way. So, in those days, there were very few publishing houses in Nigeria. Longman, Macmillan, Collins came. Collins came from England. University Press. Very few. And later the universities, like the University of Ibadan, Press and all. But now it has broadened. There are so many, and many problems have crept up along the way.
That being said, we have come to the end of the program for today. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time to grant us this interview. To our audience, we hope you enjoyed every bit of it. We'll be coming back to you very soon with another exciting edition of the UPPLC interview series. But in the meantime, keep buying and publishing with UPPLC. I am Janice Johnson Pemida. Thank you.